Aisha Thompson wiped the sweat from her brow as she polished the grand staircase in the Harrington estate, the opulent mansion looming like a gilded cage under the dim glow of crystal chandeliers. Her calloused hands, a stark contrast to the marble floors that echoed her every step, a reminder of her place in this world of wealth, where she, a black woman from humble beginnings, scrubbed away the invisible stains of the elite to fund her night classes in social work, dreaming of a life beyond servitude. The house eerily quiet that evening, the kind of silence that pressed in like an unwelcome guest, broken only by the distant tick of an antique clock in the foyer, marking time in a home where time seemed to stand still for everyone but the staff. Victoria Harrington, the lady of the house, having retreated upstairs hours ago, with little Liam, the 6-month-old heir whose cries often pierced the night like alarms. No one heeded his mother, a porcelain doll cracked by hidden vices, her beauty masking the hollow eyes that spoke of nights lost to whispers of escape. Aisha, having noticed the signs, the erratic moods, the locked doors, the faint metallic scent lingering in the air, but keeping her head down, knowing that speaking up in a place like this could cost her everything, her job, the fragile lifeline for her younger siblings back in the city projects. As she gathered her cleaning supplies ready to slip out the servants' entrance, a faint wail drifting down from the upper floor, soft at first, like a kitten's mew, then building into a desperate sob that tugged at her maternal instincts honed from raising her own kin after their mother's passing, pausing with bucket in hand, telling herself it wasn't her business, that the nanny or Victoria would handle it. But the cry intensifying, laced with pain that no child should know, echoing through the empty halls, like a plea for salvation. Sighing as she set down her tools and climbed the stairs, her sensible shoes muffled on the carpet, heart pounding as she approached the nursery door, adorned with whimsical murals of clouds and stars that belied the storm within, knocking softly, yielding no response, only louder sobs turning the knob. The door creaking open to reveal a scene from a nightmare little Liam on the cold floor beside the lavish crib, his tiny body twisted awkwardly, a gash on his forehead, oozing blood that stained the Persian rug, his face contorted in agony as he gasped for breath between wails, panic surging through Aisha like electricity, her knees buckling as she rushed to him, scooping the infant into her arms, his warmth a fragile spark against the chill of fear, whispering soothing words in a voice steady, despite the tremor in her hands. "Shh, baby, I've got you. You're safe now." Her eyes darting to the bed where Victoria lay sprawled, elegant gown, rumpled skin, pale as death lips, blue-tinged, an empty syringe glinting on the nightstand beside scattered pills, the acrid stench of heroin hanging heavy in the air like a confession. Victoria's chest rising faintly alive, but lost in oblivion, oblivious to her son's peril. The room, a tableau of neglect, where luxury met despair, tears blurring Aisha's vision as the reality crashed down. This wasn't just an accident. It was the culmination of ignored warnings of a mother drowning in addiction, while her child paid the price, fumbling for her phone with one hand while cradling Liam with the other, dialing 911, her voice breaking as she gasped, "Emergency! Please, there's a baby. He's hurt, bad head bleeding, and his mother's unresponsive looks like an overdose. Hurry, please!" The operator's calm questions feeling like lifelines as Aisha relayed the address, her free hand pressing a clean cloth from the changing table against Liam's wound, staunching the flow as best she could, the infant's cries weakening into whimpers that tore at her soul, sirens wailing in the distance, growing louder like approaching thunder. rocking Liam gently, her tears falling onto his curls, murmuring prayers from her grandmother's church hymns, vowing silently that this child wouldn't be another statistic in a world that overlooked the vulnerable. The front door bursting open downstairs, paramedics charging in with gear, clanging their boots, thumping up the stairs as Aisha called out directions. One team swarming Liam, checking vitals with efficient urgency. Pulse weak but steady, head laceration, possible concussion. While another administering Narcan to Victoria, her body jolting back to consciousness with a gasp. Eyes wild and unfocused, amid the chaos, the estate's butler. Reginald appearing in the doorway, his usually impassive face paling at the sight, muttering about discretion and Mr. Harrington's instructions, but Aisha ignoring him. Her focus on Liam as he was strapped to a tiny stretcher, his small hand grasping her finger instinctively, as the ambulance doors closed, climbing in beside him, refusing to let go. The paramedic nodding approvingly at her composure, unaware of the storm brewing within her, a mix of fury at the injustice, sorrow for the innocent, and a budding resolve to protect this boy at all costs at the hospital. The ER buzzing with controlled frenzy doctors, whisking Liam away for scans, while Aisha paced the waiting area, her uniform stained with blood, drawing curious glances from staff who whispered about the black maid who saved the rich kid. Reginald, arriving soon after, his tone clipped as he demanded updates for Daniel Harrington, the absent patriarch abroad on business, but Aisha standing firm, insisting on staying until Liam was stable. Her mind racing with questions about how long this had been hidden, how many times Victoria's habits had endangered the child. A nurse emerging, finally, her expression relieved. He's going to be okay. Mild concussion stitches needed, but no internal bleeding. Relief washing over Aisha like a balm, but short-lived as Reginald pulling her aside, warning, Mr. Harrington will handle this quietly. Don't speak to anyone. His words laced with the subtle racism she'd faced before implying she was overstepping as just the help, meeting his gaze unflinchingly, replying, That baby needed help, and I gave it quiet or not. Some things can't be swept under the rug. As the night wore on, sitting vigil by Liam's bedside, holding his hand as machines beeped softly, her thoughts turning to her own childhood, marked by neglect in overcrowded fosters, vowing that Liam wouldn't suffer the same fate, unaware that this act of courage would unravel the Harrington family's facade and propel her into a role she never imagined, the weight of the evening settling like a mantle on her shoulders, strengthening her for the battles ahead, in a world that often dismissed voices like hers. Yet, in that moment, with Liam's breathing steady, Aisha felt a spark of purpose igniting a quiet revolution beginning in the heart of one woman who refused to look away. In the sterile glow of the hospital corridor, Aisha Thompson leaned against the wall, her body aching from the adrenaline crash, the scent of antiseptic mingling with the faint metallic tang of blood still on her clothes as she watched doctors and nurses bustle past their clipped conversations, a backdrop to the turmoil churning inside her. Liam resting in the pediatric ward, his tiny form hooked to monitors that beeped reassuringly, the stitches on his forehead a stark reminder of the near tragedy, while Victoria Harrington lay in a separate room down the hall, detoxing under medical supervision, her occasional moans echoing faintly. Daniel Harrington's private jet, having touched down hours ago, striding through the automatic doors like a force of nature, tailored suit, disheveled from the flight. His chiseled features etched with worry and exhaustion, a tech mogul whose empire spanned continents but whose home life had crumbled in his absence. Spotting Aisha with purposeful strides, his voice low and commanding, You're the one who found him. Tell me everything." His eyes searching hers for truth. Amid the chaos, Aisha, recounting the night without embellishment. The cry that pierced the silence. The horrifying scene in the nursery. Victoria's limp form amid drug paraphernalia, her frantic call to 911. Her voice steady, despite the racial undercurrents she sensed in his gaze, the subtle surprise that a black maid had taken charge, Daniel listening intently, his fists clenching at mentions of the syringe guilt flashing across his face as he admitted, "I've been blind, business trips, deals, I thought the staff had it covered." Aisha, holding back her judgment, focusing on Liam's needs, Reginald hovering nearby, interjecting with polished excuses about Mrs. Harrington's stress from society obligations. But Daniel silencing him with a glare, turning back to Aisha with newfound respect. "You didn't hesitate. Most would have waited for orders. You saved my boy's life." As they entered Liam's room, the infant stirring at Daniel's touch, cooing softly a moment of tenderness that softened the mogul's edges, leading him to confide in Aisha about Victoria's hidden struggles, postpartum depression spiraling into addiction, ignored pleas from previous nannies, dismissed as exaggerations. Tension escalating when Victoria stabilized, but defiant, demanding to see Liam, her voice shrill from the doorway. "He's my son. Get that maid away from him." Accusing Aisha of exaggeration to play hero, her words dripping with class disdain and subtle racism, implying Aisha's motives were opportunistic. Daniel intervening firmly, "She did what you couldn't, protected him while you were lost in your haze," sparking a heated argument where Victoria tearfully promised reform. But Aisha, seeing through the manipulation, whispering to Daniel about patterns she'd witnessed, late-night deliveries, locked bathrooms, Liam's unattended cries, the hospital social worker arriving clipboard in hand, outlining the mandatory child services investigation, her neutral tone masking the gravity as she questioned everyone, Reginald squirming under scrutiny about unreported incidents, Victoria feigning innocence, and Aisha providing honest details that painted a damning picture of neglect back at the estate the next day. Aisha resuming duties amid whispers from staff cooks gossiping about the black girl stirring trouble. Reginald plotting to undermine her with fabricated complaints about overstepping boundaries, his loyalty to Victoria rooted in shared secrets of covered indiscretions. Daniel, sensing the brewing hostility, pulling Aisha aside in the sunlit library, shelves lined with leather-bound tomes that spoke of old money, expressing gratitude with a bonus check, and an offer to oversee Liam's care personally. "I need someone I can trust. You've proven that their conversations deepening over coffee in the kitchen." Daniel opening up about his rags to riches climb, the isolation of success and regrets over marrying Victoria for status, rather than love, while Aisha sharing snippets of her life growing up in foster care, facing discrimination in jobs, her drive to become a social worker, to help kids like Liam Bonds forming subtly Daniel's admiration, growing as Aisha organized Liam's recovery routine. Gentle baths, story times. Doctors' follow-ups. Her natural warmth contrasting the cold efficiency of the household conflicts arising when Victoria released to a luxury rehab under court order, sneaking back for a confrontation, cornering Aisha in the nursery with venomous accusations. "You think you can replace me, a maid like you in my house." Her slurs laced with racial barbs that stung but fueled Aisha's resolve, leading to a heated exchange where Aisha retorted, "It's not about replacing, it's about protecting a child you abandoned in your stupor." Daniel, overhearing, banishing Victoria temporarily, and confiding in Aisha, his plans for divorce, the vulnerability in his eyes, hinting at emerging affection, Reginald's sabotage, peaking with a false report to Daniel about Aisha stealing supplies, but security footage exonerating her, exposing Reginald's bias and leading to his dismissal, Daniel apologizing profusely. "I've let prejudice fester here too long. Your insight has opened my eyes as as weeks passed." Aisha's role evolving from caretaker to confidant, shared meals turning intimate laughter over Liam's milestones, bridging their worlds. Yet she grappling internally with imposter syndrome, wondering if her rise was pity or genuine, the chapter closing on a tender moment where Daniel brushed her hand, whispering, "You're the light this house needed," setting the stage for deeper revelations. The whispers of betrayal fading into echoes as trust solidified, like foundations rebuilt after a storm, Aisha finding strength in her voice, no longer silenced by hierarchies that once confined her, her journey weaving through layers of conflict that tested alliances and revealed true characters in the opulent shadows of the Harrington world. The mahogany-paneled courtroom hummed with anticipation as the custody hearing unfolded, sunlight filtering through tall windows onto polished benches, where lawyers shuffled papers, the air thick with the scent of aged wood, and tension. Aisha Thompson seated rigidly in the witness box, her simple dress a deliberate choice to counter stereotypes. Her testimony, the linchpin in Daniel Harrington's bid for full guardianship of Liam the infant, now a giggling toddler under her watchful eye. Judge Harlan, a stern woman with silver-streaked hair, peering over her glasses as Aisha detailed the overdose night, not just the facts, but the emotional toll, her voice resonating with authenticity born from personal scars. "I heard the cry and couldn't ignore it. No child deserves to suffer alone while a parent chooses escape over responsibility." Victoria's legal team pouncing during cross-examination, painting Aisha as an opportunist. Isn't it convenient that a maid with financial struggles inserts herself into a wealthy family? Their questions laced with insinuations about her race and motives, but Aisha remaining composed, retorting, "Convenience. I dialed 911 with tears in my eyes because a baby's life mattered more than my job security." Something Mrs. Harrington forgot. Daniel watching from the plaintiff's table, his admiration evident, having already presented evidence of Victoria's relapses, rehab records, witness statements from former staff, and photos of Liam's injury. His own testimony raw as he admitted failures. "I was absent, but Aisha stepped in where I faltered. She's given Liam stability. I couldn't." Victoria poised in designer attire, weeping theatrically on the stand, promising sobriety and accusing Daniel of alienation. "He's using that woman to replace me." But cracks showing under scrutiny, her history of failed drug tests, undermining her pleas, the judge's ruling coming swiftly, full custody. To Daniel's supervised visits for Victoria, with commendations for Aisha's intervention. The gavel's bang echoing like closure reporters swarming outside as Daniel shielded Aisha and Liam from flashes, his protective arm around her. A public declaration back at the estate, transformed into a warmer haven with Aisha's touches, colorful toys in the living room, family photos, including her life blossoming Liam's first steps, celebrated with cake and laughter. Daniel's divorce finalized amid Victoria's bitter retreat to a distant villa, personal growth, defining this phase. Aisha enrolling full-time in her social work program, with Daniel's scholarship support balancing studies with motherhood duties. Her confidence blooming as she advocated for underprivileged kids at local centers, drawing from her foster experiences to mentor others. Daniel shedding corporate armor, delegating business to focus on fatherhood, joining Aisha in therapy sessions to unpack his guilt and her traumas, their bond deepening through vulnerability, late-night talks on the veranda about dreams deferred, shared sunrises with Liam between them, subtle romance igniting a stolen kiss during a picnic under blooming oaks, Daniel's proposal on one knee with a ring symbolizing new beginnings. "You've healed us. Be my partner in this life we've built." Aisha accepting tears of joy, mingling with reflections on her journey from overlooked maid to empowered matriarch, facing societal whispers about the black woman who married up, but countering with grace, hosting charity events to raise awareness on addiction and child welfare. Victoria's final attempt at disruption, a tabloid smear alleging Aisha's manipulation backfiring when evidence surfaced of her ongoing substance issues, leading to revoked visitations and her isolation. The chapter weaving in Aisha's cultural roots, incorporating family recipes from her heritage into household meals, teaching Liam songs from her childhood, enriching the estate with diversity that Daniel embraced their wedding, an intimate affair blending traditions, vows under a canopy of lights. Liam as ring-bearer, symbolizing unity. Challenges, persisting media scrutiny. Testing their resolve, Aisha's siblings, integrating into the fold with awkward but heartfelt reunions. Daniel confronting boardroom biases about his unconventional family, yet resilience prevailing. Aisha launching a foundation for foster youth. Daniel funding it generously, their love a beacon against adversity. The narrative closing on a serene note. Aisha tucking Liam in Daniel, wrapping arms around her, whispering, "We made it through the fire." Their story, a testament to transformation, where a single cry sparked a lifetime of change, empowering the marginalized and redefining family beyond blood or wealth. Bonds forged in fire, now unbreakable. Aisha reflecting on her evolution from silent observer to vocal advocate, her voice echoing in community forums where she shared her story to inspire others. Daniel supporting her every endeavor. Their partnership, a model of equality in a world rife with divisions, Liam growing into a curious child whose laughter filled the halls once shadowed by neglect, the estate evolving into a hub for philanthropy, hosting workshops on racial equity and family support. Aisha's program gaining national recognition, drawing donations from Daniel's network. Yet personal moments, grounding them, family vacations to serene beaches where Liam built sand castles, quiet evenings, reading books that celebrated diverse heroes, Aisha teaching Daniel about her cultural festivals, incorporating them into holidays that blended traditions seamlessly, challenges like Victoria's sporadic legal threats, fizzling out under overwhelming evidence, her eventual path to recovery, distant but acknowledged without bitterness, Daniel and Aisha fostering open dialogues about forgiveness, ensuring Liam knew his biological roots, without the pain their family expanding with the adoption of a foster teen Aisha mentored, creating a tapestry of love that defied origins, Aisha's degree completion, celebrated with a grand party, her cap and gown a symbol of perseverance. Daniel beaming with pride as she walked the stage, the fire that once threatened to consume now a forge for strength, their life a narrative of redemption, where every scar told a story of survival and growth, the bonds unbreakable, echoing eternally in the warmth of their home.